Welcome to another episode of This Is Why I Don't Vote, a podcast. Season 5, Episode 15. Your safe space to discuss sports, politics, social issues, and even religion. Well, we will take it all very seriously, but not too seriously. It's been a few weeks. I put it off on purpose. I wanted to see how things played out. Yes, I have a segment on the tariffs. And I couldn't pass up this story because it is illustrative of this duality that so many people in the public eye have of wanting to be loved and wanting to be respected, or have people in awe of them at the same time, if not fear them, and how that plays out in their psychology via the choices they make and the actions that they take. Elon Musk, the gamer, lies about being successful at some PC game, admits to having people actually play his character so that it will level up, and paying them to do so, and then in a public forum, while he is live streaming his playing of the video game, he gets trolled to the point where he, as the kids say, rage quits. I'm seeking love and validation just like you are, dear listener. I'd like to think that I'm not that desperate for it. Thank you to all my loyal listeners. If you are new to the podcast, please like, subscribe, thumbs up, 5-star, write a review, send to friends and enemies far and wide. This Is Why I Don't Vote podcast is on Patreon. If you like what you hear, please consider supporting.
Act 1. Yes, finally, a segment on the Trump tariffs.
I've had a few people reach out to me wanting me to speak to tariffs, and I wanted to refrain from doing so for the exact reason what happened this week. The tariffs are on, the tariffs are off. The tariffs are not a negotiating tool. The tariffs are a negotiating tool. The tariffs are not going to be reduced. The tariffs are off for now 90 days. There's no rhyme or reason to it, and there's no reason for me to try to speak to it, as it seems like daily, things change. What I did want to speak to with regard to this tariff imposition and the lack of industrial domestic policy is this counterintuitive belief that you can't have top-down domestic policy to reinvigorate American manufacturing, while at the same time you can levy these tariffs on the rest of the world, and that somehow everyone is going to believe that the United States is still the safe haven for their money, is still a good investment, and that the market itself will reallocate dollars into the United States in order to rebuild our domestic manufacturing. These are two opposite ideas. If you're going to levy all of these tariffs, and you're basically going to pick fights with all of the allies that the United States has all over the world, you can't at the same time adopt this neo-libertarian, conservative market type approach to how government operates. The government is going to need to provide the money and the tax credits in order to reinvigorate domestic manufacturing in the United States. Why would any company, given how chaotic this whole tariff paradigm has been, the formula, which looks like, I buy this, dear listener. I've heard it from a number of different outlets. It looks like someone asked ChatGPT, asked artificial intelligence, what's the most simple way to levy tariffs in light of a trade imbalance, and what was spit out has been applied to all of these countries around the world. There's no more sophistication to it than what was given to an artificial intelligence program, the parameters of which were also simple and limited. If that is the way that you're going to implement tariffs, and you are going to do so with U.S. allies, how then do you expect them to turn around and invest in U.S. manufacturing? You're putting the onus on U.S. companies to bring manufacturing back to the United States, which means they're going to have to invest their own capital, which means you'd want to have a stable market, a stable stock market, a stable bond market in particular, so that there is some predictability in government policy and in the markets that would provide a company the security to invest hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars in U.S. manufacturing. I don't know that I spoke about this in detail in a prior segment, but there's a Chinese company called BYD. BYD is a auto manufacturer and they produce electric vehicles. BYD came out with a model that I think you could argue is a competitor to the Tesla Model 3. And if you take a fully upgraded Model 3 and a fully upgraded BYD vehicle, and I don't know what the name of that vehicle is, the BYD vehicle is half of the price of a Tesla. The battery on that car has 300-mile range. It has a 300-mile range. It charges in 5 minutes. Not 6 minutes, not 4 minutes, 5 minutes. If any of you have an electric vehicle, you know that is remarkable. It is a remarkable leap in battery technology for electric vehicles. Why do I mention this? If you have a tariff regime with all of these other countries that's going to limit your ability to export goods, you are going to rely then exclusively on domestic purchasing power, the power of the dollar in the United States, and you want companies to gamble on the stability of the U.S. economy such that they're going to invest billions of dollars bringing manufacturing back into this country. It is simply counterintuitive to not have and not be able to present a programmatic, well thought out domestic policy on how the federal government, the U.S. government, is going to incent, by way of grants, by way of tax credits, these corporate investments. It's not a mystery as to how a Chinese company has developed one of the most advanced electric vehicles on planet Earth in such a short period of time. The Chinese government not only has a programmatic, a top-down policy when it comes to electric vehicles, when it comes to battery technology. The Chinese government can pump money into any one of these companies that it wants to. It can demand that money be reallocated to certain segments of the market. The Chinese government can enact very specific design tariff policies with regard to automobiles, electric battery technology. And here we now have a Chinese EV maker that has the most advanced electric vehicle on the market. I read an article that BYD wanted to build a plant in Mexico to take advantage of the Latin and South American markets, and were afraid, given how advanced their technology is now, that the United States would be in an advantageous position to steal its intellectual property. In sum, China as a country, through an authoritarian government, let's all be clear about that, through an authoritarian government said, we're going to be the world's #1 manufacturer of electric vehicles, and we're going to have the most advanced EV technology, which, as we all know, means we're going to have the most advanced batteries. The state incented these companies, practically demanded of these companies their corporate compliance with this policy, and here we have the most advanced electric vehicle on the marketplace coming out of China. Nothing in North America competes with this, and nothing in particular in the United States can compete with this electric vehicle. For all intents and purposes, the federal government is like one of these storied football programs in college where they had won for years and years and years. And then over the course of the last 20 years, we've seen some of those programs go through extremely dry spells, some of whom have never recovered. And a great example is Nebraska. All throughout the 80s and the 90s and the early aughts, Nebraska walked a team out on the field. That was a damn good football team. Nebraska is having a hard time achieving a 500 record these days. Nebraska isn't going to be good simply because it's Nebraska. The United States isn't a place for the world to invest its money simply because it's the United States. The conditions inside of this country have to warrant as much. Instead of making the U.S. an attractive place to invest money, even in light of this tariff paradigm, it's the exact opposite. This clusterfuckery in how the tariffs were actually administered and applied, this formula that doesn't make any sense, that no one seems to be able to explain, again, beyond it possibly being something that was spit out from artificial intelligence after having been given very limited parameters. And then the current administration saying, well, we don't want to have a top-down a government-led or a government-driven reindustrialization policy. We want the market to take care of that. Unfortunately, dear listener, I think the market is taking care of that. I think the market is looking at the United States now and the way this administration is handling tariffs, and they're looking at the United States for the first time as a place where maybe it's not the best place for investment. When you look at China right now, and here's the problem with China. The Chinese government doesn't have to go through Congress. The Chinese government doesn't have to wrestle with a Treasury Department or a Federal Reserve. If the market conditions call for as much, the Chinese are going to lower interest rates. If the market conditions call for as much, the Chinese government is going to reinvest hundreds of billions of dollars into its infrastructure. I didn't know this until the whole tariff thing popped off. The United States of America did not make one container ship last year. In the year of our Lord 2024, the United States didn't make one container ship. China dominates the market in the construction of container ships. It basically goes China, Japan, Korea. None of the container ships that we get our goods from, none of the container ships that we export our goods on are made in the United States of America. Very few of them are owned by American companies. Why is that? The Chinese made a decision. We're going to invest billions and billions of dollars into shipyards and construction. And whatever the environmental impact, who gives a shit? Whatever the timeline, who gives a shit? We are going to dominate the world in construction of these ships, which are basically the lifeblood of international trade. The U.S. government didn't have a response. In fact, it didn't even probably register on the radar of most legislators, and certainly it hasn't registered on the radar of the administrations of George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, or Joe Biden. We've already missed the boat, so to speak. Did you like that? Did you like that pun? We've missed the boat, so to speak, on the construction of these container ships. If the Chinese government makes a decision that they want to have the most dominant shipyards in the world, they're going to have them because they don't have to go through any state or federal regulatory body. They don't have to have a number of checks and balances on that type of decision. So when it comes to preparation for a trade war based on tariffs, who's in a better position to do so? Is it the Chinese or is it the United States? Unfortunately, it's the Chinese. When it comes to programmatic or long-term planning, a communist state is going to be highly competitive because they don't have this huge decision tree. It's basically 3, 4, maybe 5 people who are making these decisions, and they're pushing them down on everyone else. That's not to say that I don't believe the United States can compete. Certainly we can, but we don't seem to think that it's a priority that we do. And we have an administration right now that's taking somewhat of a laissez-faire market economic type approach, if you will, to the investment needed to bring back American manufacturing, and yet at the same time using a top-down approach by placing all these tariffs on all these countries. It's not like the administration's looking to Congress to get congressional approval for the implementation of these tariffs. So it is counterintuitive. You've got this top-down administrative action with regard to tariffs, and yet when you need that same type of action in order to invite investment in domestic manufacturing, you don't see that at all. You're basically leaving it up to these companies that have no idea what the hell the administration's going to do over the course of the next 90 days or 180 days or 365 days, and you're saying use your money, use your shareholders' money, use your investors' money. You do it. You build the domestic infrastructure. When you think about the tax cuts that the Trump administration is now considering, and you think about how restrictive this whole DOGE thing has been when it comes to the size of government, the allocation of resources to these governmental agencies, I'm not saying that it's necessarily a good thing, a bad thing, but if that's what you're going to do, if you're going to put on this austerity belt and at the same time demand that manufacturing in the United States be a priority, how is it not the government that's going to be the catalyst to make that happen? You're cutting taxes, You're cutting money to these federal agencies, except for the Pentagon, of course. You're giving them another $100 billion. I don't know if anybody saw this, quick aside, but Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, bragged. I mean, he was bold about it. He thinks that the Pentagon's budget in the year of our Lord, 2026, is going to be $1 trillion. We're going to spend $1 trillion on one thing in this country, in the United States. It's going to be on our defense. And yet the expectation is that the market and the companies that make up the marketplace, whether domestic or foreign, are going to be the ones to expend their capital on reinvesting in American manufacturing. I don't see it, dear listener. I don't see it. Based on what I've seen over the course of the last month, I see a lot of these companies sitting on their hands for the next 4 years, not making any major moves. And I don't care what the headlines say about Company A or Company B investing $500 billion, $1 trillion. A lot of that stuff is just bullshit. Until you see ground broken, until you see all these people getting hired in state X or state Y, don't believe any of these things you're seeing in the media about how all these companies are now reinvesting in the United States. That stuff makes for good public relations, and it does satisfy the wants and desires of the current administration. But until you see $1 spent, again, until you see the ground broken somewhere, that's just something that's being floated in the media. My final comment is that I'm very worried about the way this implementation process has gone down with regard to tariffs. I'm worried about how it's going to affect people's perception of tariffs over the course of the next 20, 30, 40 years. Tariffs have their place in international policy and domestic policy. And the fact that these tariffs have been handled so haphazardly, so clumsily, that's going to leave a bad taste in the mouths of a number of citizens of this country that will look at tariffs as the catalyst for many of the problems that they experience with regard to a recession, a reduction in purchasing power, and that's going to influence the way that they vote in the future. You have a number of Democrats coming out now and talking about how bad tariffs are, and the U.S., given the fact that we're a consumption nation, we are all consumers, we like our cheap shit and we like to buy a lot of it, that's problematic if you can't implement tariffs to help lessen or alleviate what will be a trade imbalance with many of the nations that build that cheap shit. Tariffs aren't a magic wand, but they also aren't the boogeyman and aren't something that the executive branch and legislators shouldn't have at their disposal in the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years to come. Perhaps over the course of the next 90 days, sanity will be regained in the White House. We will see a more programmatic approach to the tariffs, particularly for individual countries that are great U.S. allies. And Trump and his sycophants can go and beat their chest about how this is just another example of the art of the deal. This is a man who can create the circumstances in order to make the kind of deals that he wants. I'm optimistic that that's the case, only because if it's not, we are all going to suffer.
Act 2, Elon Musk the Gamer.
This may be one of the strangest stories I can ever remember. It is such an insight into power, into the dynamics of the mind, this duality that so many of us have, that we want to be liked by people, but we also want people to, if not just respect us, to fear us. Or maybe a better way to say that is to be in awe of us. So not so much as to fear us, although that may play a part in it, but to be in awe of us. This respect, this awe, it validates us. I had an Atari. I had an Intellivision. Do you remember that one, dear listener? I had Intellivision. I had Sega. I had a PlayStation. For a while there, I played some PC games as well. Gaming was a part of my adolescence, a part of my growing up. And I think it's inherently a male-oriented experience. Guys get together online. That's what they do today. But back in the day, we congregated in the same room and we played these games and we talked shit to one another. I'm not in the gaming community. I don't know exactly what goes on. But my understanding is that it has not fundamentally changed from a bunch of guys in 1993 getting together again in the same place, congregating in the same room playing a video game and talking shit to one another. It may be online. There may be millions of additional players. Some of those players may actually be female as well. But the fundamental, hey, I'm going to talk shit to you if I am successful in this game and you are not, or if I just watch you fail, that's pretty much par for the course. I stopped playing video games consciously. It wasn't as if I couldn't keep doing it or I wasn't good enough to keep doing it. The problem with video gaming in general, in this modern environment, the controllers for these consoles got more and more involved, more and more complicated. The games themselves became more intricate and more complicated. It took a significant investment of time to get even proficient in a game. Not good, just proficient. In order to get good, you had to invest a lot of time. And yes, I'm sure that there are some people who have the acumen, just like there are athletes who don't have to practice something as much as the rest of us. They just pick up on it more quickly. Yes, I'm sure that happens in gaming. But for most people, and even some of those really high-level gamers, you spend a lot of time doing it. I looked at the value of my time. I looked at what I got out of gaming. And I said, I'm not doing this anymore. But I understand that there are many adults, many people over the age of 50 who still game, who are still gamers. Why would I volunteer my own story in the telling of this story about Elon Musk, the gamer? Well, it's pertinent because most people, older people who used to be gamers and are no longer gamers, don't game anymore because they just don't have the time. They can't dedicate the time between a career, a family, and any other type of hobby to be in front of the TV or the computer screen for hours and hours and hours. In addition, women really don't find gaming that attractive. Girlfriend, spouse, doesn't matter. Women really don't like gaming. They don't get it. They don't understand how someone could sit in front of these games for hours on end, talking shit to one another, yelling, getting upset in particular, and ultimately, what reward do you get? You are being accepted. It's social proof within this community of gamers. And generally, the people that you're trying to get this social acceptance from, this social proof from, are not in the same stage of their lives as you are. If you are 52 years old and you're trying to get social proof, if you're trying to raise your social value on an online gaming platform, you're dealing with kids between the ages of sometimes 9 or maybe 12 to what? 22, 24, 26? That's not really your peer group. I know some guys my age that still have their PlayStation hooked up. They may throw on one of the NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball video games once in a blue moon and play it, but it's not that competitive. And the fact of the matter is, it's so complicated that if you don't continue to do it, if the frequency of your playing isn't high enough, you're no good at it, and it's really not that fun anyway. Elon Musk, the gamer. It turns out that Elon Musk, who is, he's running Tesla. He's running Starlink. He's running SpaceX. He's, regardless of what the administration says, running Doge. I didn't look it up, but my understanding is he's got 11 kids. He is father to 11 children. With all of that on his plate, Elon Musk loves this video game, this online PC game called Path of Exile 2. He's a big fan of it. He has bragged about it, being a fan of the video game. He has bragged about how good he is at the video game. And that led a number of people to do what? To start to investigate these claims. Because if you invite gamers to judge you or criticize you in any way, they are going to exercise that opportunity. And it turns out that Elon Musk had a very successful profile, I guess that's what you would call it, a player, whatever his character was in the game. He was really good at it. And he had to admit, after the investigation, the inquisition of his status began, that he had paid people that were good at this video game, to level up his character so that when he played it, he could brag about how good he was. It made him feel better to have a high-level character in this video game, and he wasn't able to, whether it's the time, whether it's the capacity, right? He didn't have enough time to get good at the game to level up. He didn't have enough time to play the game, even if he was really good to level up. Or he tried to get good and he just sucks. And he was like, I don't want to wait. I want to have all the accolades and the rewards associated with a high-level character in this game right now. So I'll have other people do it, and then I'll get on and I'll get all the flowers. I want to stop the segment right there. Here is a man who, as I said, founded a company that started the electric car movement in this country and around planet Earth. And then he started his own spaceship company. He started his own rocket company, and people were like, you're a fucking idiot. And he turned that into such a successful business that now the U.S. government, NASA, contracts with this outside company to shoot off rockets and put satellites into space instead of the government doing it itself. Hey, is there a vulnerability in our internet access that it is in these underground cables that go through all this international water and that so many different adversarial nations have access to that type of sensitive national security infrastructure? Yes, that is the case. And what's the federal government going to do about it? Well, we've got big plans, and we are not going to actually act on those plans for decades, if not centuries, because we haven't got jack shit to show for all of the money that we've put into trying to create a satellite service that would provide internet all over the planet that's exclusive, that's controlled in the four corners, the domestic United States. Well, Elon Musk is like, oh, I'll do that. And he throws up a bunch of satellites into the sky, and Starlink works. It's very, very successful. All these people in rural areas all over planet Earth now have access to the internet because of Elon Musk. While running all these successful companies, he has sired 11 kids, so he is a father. And as of a year ago, he jumps into the political ring, and here he is now in this new governmental or quasi-governmental agency. Whether you agree with this next statement or not, it doesn't really matter. Reforming the entire U.S. government. The point is, that in and of itself is quite an undertaking. And here he is, he's got this video game that he feels like is such an important part of his life that he wants to be a big shot in that community, in that gaming community, so much so that he pays people to level up a character, a profile in that game so that he could go outside of the gaming community and brag about it. Think about the psychology involved with that. This is a grown man that was lying about his acumen on an online PC video game. The dichotomy to me is striking because Elon Musk, over the course of the last year, diving into the political arena, and you could probably say even as far back as when COVID had dropped on this country, this planet like a bomb, he started to become more politicized in the things that he was putting out there on social media. This was a man that basically took a posture of, I don't give a fuck. You like me, you don't like me, I don't give a fuck. I'm going to do what I think is right. And here, that same man, in order to raise his social standing with what are people who are probably between the ages of 12 and 25, he hires people to create the illusion that he's good at a video game. The story gets so much better, and yet in reality, it's so much worse. In advertising the effectiveness of Starlink, Elon Musk gets on his private jet and is flying through the air using Starlink to play this video game, Path of Exile 2, and he is live streaming it. So he's basically advertising Starlink vis-a-vis his participation in this video game, and he's terrible at it. He's absolutely awful. And his participation in this video game is just confirming that, yes, he clearly lied about how good he was at the video game. He clearly did hire people in order to level up his character. And when given the opportunity to prove his own acumen, he is terrible. Now, I'm not going to criticize Elon Musk for not being good at this video game. Again, the man is running 3 companies, if not more. He is an integral member of the U.S. government now, whether you agree with what he's doing or not. He's got 11 kids. The fact of the matter is, he should be terrible at the video game. While playing the game, terribly by the way, he's getting relentlessly trolled on the message boards, and it is clearly upsetting him. And what struck me about this entire story is I don't think Elon Musk knows how to make friends or be friends with anyone. The man easily could have endeared himself to everyone in that gaming community and everyone watching the live stream if he was like, you know what? I did make that up. I don't know why I did it. Yes, it's true. I'm not very good at the game, but I love it, and I'm not going to stop playing it. As he did that, he could even read some of the comments that these guys were making, and he could have, with a sense of humor, made fun of himself or given them some of the barbs back. But as a testament to the fact that Elon Musk is very likely high on the spectrum. He's not on the spectrum a little bit. He's high on the spectrum. It never occurred to him to do these things. He just got progressively more and more angry. I believe now that Elon Musk was, for all intents and purposes, buying friends. He thought that if he had this very high-developed, high-level character in this video game, that the gaming community in Path of Exile 2 would like him, would respect him more. And in line with the duality that I'm trying to illustrate here, they would also respect him, if not be in awe of him. And as we saw, none of it worked. These kids relentlessly trolled him. He was terrible at the video game. It was apparent by the way that he looked during the live stream that it got under his skin, and he got progressively and progressively more angry. So much so that in an advertisement for Starlink, remember, Elon Musk gets on his private jet. He's using Starlink to play this video game. And if you know anything about gaming, you know anything about the internet, using Wi-Fi, using any kind of remote internet access to play a video game is stupid, because it can't provide you the bandwidth well enough that you can keep the frame rate up on the video game. So basically you essentially get this lag. So the game is either glitchy or it freezes at points, but it doesn't freeze for all the other participants. So it is very disadvantageous for you not to have the best internet connection that you can, and generally people have their internet connection plugged directly into their computer. Here, Elon Musk is saying, look, Starlink is so powerful that I can get in my private jet, I can get online and play a pretty advanced video game that requires a ton of bandwidth in order to be an effective player, and I'm still not going to have any problems. The only problem that he sucks at the video game. He got so mad at this relentless trolling that he, what kids call, rage quit the game. He was in the middle of playing the game, something happened, someone triggered him in some capacity, and he just turned the thing off. He didn't quietly exit out of the game. He didn't quietly shut down his computer. He basically just yanks the power cord out of the wall and everything shuts off. Did Elon rage quit out of the game? Well, according to him, no. It was a failure of Starlink. So it's a damned if you do and a damned if you don't. Either you rage quit like a petulant little boy out of a video game and you had put yourself in that arena. You orchestrated the entire architecture of your own downfall, or the product that you were advertising that's so powerful that you can play a video game while flying through the air in a private jet, it's not that powerful. It's going to cut out on you. For a man that has accomplished so much and has changed the course of human history, I mean, there's no doubt this planet wouldn't be populated with electric cars and using batteries for so many different things if not for Elon Musk. Starlight has provided internet access to practically every human being on the face of the earth. All they need is a device to link up to it. How did Elon Musk create such a powerful internet service? His own spaceships. His own rockets. And yet look at the psychology of the man who would go and lie about how good he is at a video game, and then when that is proven to be false, throws a temper tantrum and rage quits. Is that the psychology? Is that the type of person that we want so instrumental in the reshaping or the reforming of the U.S. government? Up and until this story, I thought Elon Musk was someone who suffered the slings and arrows of this public ire very well. Whether you love him or hate him, Elon Musk is out there in the arena. That a bunch of 12-year-olds on some video game that I've never heard of could stymie him in this capacity, and that he would set himself up for as much. It's just baffling to me. We all want to be loved. And I'm saddened by the fact that Elon Musk doesn't feel like he can find that anywhere else but a video game forum for 12-year-olds. But it is no different than a girl using all of these different filters on her dating app, a guy lying about his height or his age, and then wondering why they can't find love. To believe that there will be no repercussions for misrepresenting yourself to this degree. Maybe he's exactly where he needs to be. I don't want to go and become a politician. You don't want to become a politician. We're all too, as screwed up as we are, as screwed up as our relationships are, our family dynamics are, our workplace environments are, as screwed up as they may be, they are still too well adjusted for any one of us to want to go out and become a politician. Maybe this is just the veil coming off, the curtains being pulled back, and we see that the wizard is nothing more than an old man pulling levers and gears. People who rise to the top of the political landscape have serious validation issues, psychologically and emotionally. We all want to believe that they are public servants to serve the public. Their choices and their actions tell us otherwise. This is Why Don't Vote, a podcast.